The spaceport was alive with the chatter of 100 languages, the clank and whir of cargo drones, and the occasional shout from traders and travelers alike. Amidst this cacophony, Jack maneuvered through the crowd with a practiced ease, his eyes scanning the stalls for a good deal on engine parts. As he haggled with a vendor, a commotion at a nearby stall caught his attention. An alien woman, her skin shimmering with a natural iridescence that caught the light with every move, seemed to be in a heated argument with a local merchant. The merchant, a gruff old Terran, was shaking his head emphatically, pointing at a digital display. Curious, Jack edged closer. The alien woman's frustration was palpable, her body language tense and her words sharp, though he couldn't understand her language. "Excuse me," Jack interjected, stepping between them. "Maybe I can help translate?" he offered, with a friendly smile towards the alien. The woman turned her striking eyes on him, their depth momentarily startling him. "That would be appreciated," she said in accented Common, her voice carrying a melodious quality. Jack looked at the merchant. "What's the problem here?" "This lady's trying to pay with a currency I can't accept. It's not valid here," the merchant grumbled, crossing his arms. Jack turned to the alien woman. "Do you have any credits or barter goods? Most traders around here won't take foreign currency." She nodded, looking relieved. "I do have some trade goods. Would you help me negotiate?" "Of course," Jack replied. He spent the next few minutes discussing with the merchant, eventually helping the alien, Zara. She introduced herself, exchanged a few rare minerals from her planet for the items she needed. "Thank you," Zara said as they walked away from the stall. "I'm not used to this kind of trade. I'm here to learn about human cultures and your trading practices." Jack smiled, leading her to a quieter spot by a cafe. "Well, you've come to the right place, and it looks like you picked up a local guide." Zara chuckled. "It seems so. Perhaps you can teach me more over a drink," she suggested, her eyes sparkling with genuine curiosity. "Sure, I know just the place," Jack said as they made their way to an open-air cafe overlooking the docking bays. They chose a table with a view of the landing pads, where ships of all sizes and shapes descended and ascended into the busy sky. "So, what brings a human here to this chaos of commerce and culture?" Zara asked, tilting her head slightly. Jack took a sip of his drink before answering. "I'm a trader. Engines, tech, sometimes information. The galaxy's a big place, and there's a lot to see and do. And what have you seen and done that stands out?" Zara queried, genuinely interested. Jack laughed, his eyes twinkling with memories. "Oh, I've seen floating cities, black holes, and once, a star being born. But it's the people you meet that truly make the journey worthwhile." Zara listened intently, her fascination clear. "It sounds incredible. My world is quite secluded. We're just starting to reach out to other planets, other civilizations. I want to understand more, experience more." "Well, you've got a good start," Jack remarked. "Navigating a spaceport trade floor without ending up with a box of worthless rocks is a decent day's work." Their laughter mingled, an easy sound in the busy hum of the port. As they talked, the sun began to set, casting long shadows and bathing the spaceport in a warm golden light. Jack found himself captivated, not just by her stories but by her perspective, so wildly different and yet so keenly sharp. As the evening wore on, they made plans to meet again the next day. Jack would show her some of the less touristy parts of the port, and in exchange, she promised to share more about her culture, her world. It was the beginning of something neither of them could have anticipated, a journey into cultures and emotions, bridging worlds with laughter and shared curiosity. The morning after their first meeting, Jack led Zara through the bustling avenues of the spaceport to a local cafe favored by pilots and traders for its strong coffee and stronger gossip. As they entered, a man sitting at a corner table looked up and waved. "Jack, over here," he called out. The man, Lucas, was another human, a longtime friend and fellow trader. Jack smiled, guiding Zara towards the table. "Lucas, meet Zara." "Zara, Lucas is the best navigator this side of the Orion Arm." Lucas stood and extended a hand, which Zara took with a slight nod of her head. "Pleased to meet you, Zara. Any friend of Jack's is a friend of mine." Zara smiled, her eyes glinting with curiosity. Jack tells me you've traveled through some fascinating routes. I would love to hear about them. As they sat down, Lucas launched into tales of narrow escapes and stunning vistas, occasionally interrupted by Jack's interjections and corrections. Zara listened intently, occasionally asking probing questions that made Lucas pause and think before answering. After the storytelling dwindled, Jack shifted the topic. Lucas here also dabbles in languages. He's picked up a few alien tongues on his travels. Lucas chuckled, rubbing the back of his neck. A few words here and there. Nothing as complex as what you're used to, I bet. Zara's interest was piqued. Languages are fascinating. They do more than convey messages. They express culture, emotion, and even identity. Jack nodded. Actually, that's something we were hoping you could help with, Lucas. Zara's been teaching me her language, but it's complex. Maybe with your experience, you could catch nuances I miss. Lucas leaned forward, intrigued. I'd be honored. What can you teach us today, Zara? With a delighted smile, Zara began explaining the basics of her language, which included not only verbal components but also telepathic elements that conveyed deeper emotional undertones. Lucas and Jack tried to mimic her pronunciation, often stumbling over the more alien sounds, leading to bursts of laughter from all three. Emotion is crucial in our communication, Zara explained as they practiced. For example, this phrase, "She said something complex and melodious," is a greeting, but depending on my emotional tone, it can be formal or very intimate. Jack tried repeating it, and Zara laughed. You just told me you're delighted to meet me, but as if I were an old friend you hadn't seen in years. Lucas tried next, and she nodded approvingly. Perfect tone, but you need to soften the end. It's less harsh. They continued like this for hours, not noticing the time passing as the cafe emptied and refilled around them. The lesson turned into an exchange, with Jack and Lucas sharing phrases from languages they knew, comparing structures and sounds. As the afternoon waned, Zara leaned back in her chair, visibly pleased. This has been incredibly productive. Thank you both for your patience and enthusiasm. Lucas waved off her thanks. It's been a pleasure learning about your culture. It's not every day we get to delve into something so unique. Jack agreed, smiling at Zara. And there's more to learn every day. How about we all meet again tomorrow? Maybe you can show us some of those telepathic tricks? Zara nodded, the prospect exciting her. I would like that very much. It's rare to find humans so eager to understand. They parted ways outside the cafe, the setting sun casting long shadows across the spaceport. Jack and Zara agreed to explore more of the local area the next day, each interaction deepening their understanding not just of each other's languages, but also of each other's worlds. The evening found Jack and Zara in his modest apartment, which offered a panoramic view of the bustling spaceport below. The room was filled with various artifacts and mementos from Jack's travels, each object telling a story of distant worlds and adventures. As Zara examined a glowing orb from the Andromeda sector, Jack prepared some light snacks in the small kitchen. You know, that orb is from a planet where the seas glow at night, he explained, setting a plate of food on the coffee table. Zara looked up, her interest piqued. Really? How do they glow? Bioluminescence. Tiny organisms in the water light up when disturbed. It's beautiful, like the stars have come down to swim with you. Zara smiled, placing the orb back on the shelf. I've read about such phenomena, but seeing these artifacts makes it feel more real. They moved to the couch, where Jack handed Zara a drink. So, what's it like, your home planet? You've heard so much about mine through these trinkets. It's very different from here, Zara began, her voice tinged with nostalgia. We have vast plains of crystal grass that chime with the wind, and skies that shift in color based on the season. Jack listened, enchanted by the description. It sounds peaceful. It is, mostly, she agreed. Then her expression turned playful. But let's talk about something else. I'm here to learn about human cultures, remember? Perhaps you could teach me something of your personal culture, like, how do humans express affection? Jack chuckled, a warmth spreading through him. Well, it varies a lot from person to person and place to place, but common expressions include giving gifts, spending quality time, physical touch, and yes, kissing. Kissing, Zara repeated, The word unfamiliar. Yes, like this. Gently, Jack leaned in and pressed a soft kiss to her cheek. Pulling back, he watched her reaction, a mix of surprise and curiosity. Zara touched her cheek, then looked at him, her gaze intense yet open. And is this common among friends, or more often between romantic partners, or those exploring deeper connections? Jack clarified, his voice gentle. I see. Zara paused, processing the information. Could you? Would it be all right to try again? This time, Jack kissed her lips briefly, a mere brush that was a question in itself. Zara responded after a moment's hesitation, her own kiss tentative but earnest. When they parted, Zara's breath was uneven. This feeling, I can't resist. Destroy me, human, she exclaimed, the words slipping out in her native tongue before she could catch them. Jack blinked, taken aback by the intensity of her words. Zara, are you okay? I didn't mean to. No, I'm more than okay, she hurried to explain, her cheeks tinted with a subtle glow. In my culture, expressing such strong emotions is rare outside of deep bonds. Your kiss, it stirred something wonderful. Jack's heart raced, a mix of relief and excitement. I'm glad, because I feel something too. This connection, it's unlike anything I've known. They spent the rest of the evening exploring this new aspect of their relationship, discussing boundaries, desires, and emotions in a candid exchange that felt as natural as it was profound. As the city lights twinkled below, Jack and Zara discovered a mutual desire to delve deeper into each other's worlds, both metaphorically and literally. The night ended with a promise to explore these feelings further, setting the stage for a journey neither anticipated but both desired. Zara's living quarters were distinctly different from Jack's, designed to mimic the environment of her home planet. The air was tinged with a sweet, floral scent, and the room bathed in a soft, multicolored light, reminiscent of her description of the shifting skies of her world. As Jack stepped in, he felt as if he were stepping onto another planet. Wow, this is incredible, Zara, Jack said, looking around in awe. Zara smiled, pleased by his reaction. I wanted to share this part of me with you. Our environments are a big part of who we are, don't you think? Absolutely, Jack agreed, taking a seat on a cushion that subtly adjusted to his weight. Zara joined him, their knees brushing lightly. I've been thinking about our last conversation about human affection, she began, her voice slightly tentative. I would like to understand more about you, about us. Jack nodded, his expression earnest. I'm an open book, Zara. What do you want to know? How do humans decide who to be with? Is it just about feelings, or is there more? Zara asked, her gaze fixed on him. Jack considered her question. It's mostly about feelings, yes, but there's also a lot about mutual respect, shared interests, and goals. It's about wanting to be part of each other's lives and helping each other grow. Zara absorbed his words, then said, in my culture, bonds are formed based on emotional compatibility. We can sense each other's feelings, like how I can slightly sense yours now. It helps in understanding deep connections. That sounds powerful, Jack mused. Being able to really feel what the other person is feeling. It is, but it's also overwhelming sometimes, Zara admitted. Especially now. With these new emotions you're introducing me to, Jack reached out, taking her hand. We'll navigate this together. Just tell me if it's ever too much. Zara squeezed his hand, a gesture of trust. I will. The conversation shifted to lighter topics as they shared a meal Zara had prepared. Dishes from her planet that were tangy and sweet, exploding with flavors Jack had never experienced. They laughed over his reactions to the more exotic tastes and Zara's delight in his willingness to try everything. After eating, Zara showed Jack some traditional music from her culture. The melodies were complex and haunting, carrying an emotional weight that seemed to resonate in the air around them. They sat close, shoulders touching, as Zara explained the stories behind each piece. As the music played, Jack found himself moved by the depth of the connection growing between them. Zara, this music, it's beautiful. You've brought so much into my life in such a short time. Zara turned to him, her eyes shining. And you to mine, Jack. I never expected to find someone who would want to understand my world as much as you do. They ended the evening by teaching each other dances from their respective cultures. Zara's dance was fluid and elegant, her movements telling stories of wind and water. Jack's was more grounded, rhythmic steps and sharp turns that spoke of Earth's diverse landscapes. Exhausted but happy, they collapsed onto the cushion, laughing. I think I need more practice, Jack panted. You're doing wonderfully, Zara assured him, her laughter mingling with his. Their eyes met, and without a word, they leaned in, sharing a kiss that was now familiar yet still thrilling. As they pulled away, Jack whispered, I'm really glad I met you, Zara. And you, she whispered back, their foreheads resting together as the last notes of the music faded into silence. In that quiet moment, with hearts open and emotions laid bare, they both understood that what was growing between them was rare and precious. A bond formed not just of affection but of deep, mutual understanding. The next day, Jack and Zara decided to spend some time outside of the bustling spaceport and crowded residential areas, opting for a serene park that offered both privacy and a touch of nature. As they walked along a path lined with exotic, engineered plants, their conversation took a reflective turn. Jack noticed Zara seemed quieter than usual, her usually expressive eyes pensive. Everything okay? He asked, concern coloring his tone. Zara glanced at him, then away, watching a small, bioluminescent creature flit among the flowers. I've been thinking about everything we've shared. It's all been moving so fast. Sometimes, it feels overwhelming. Jack nodded, understanding her need to process the whirlwind of their interactions. It's a lot to take in, especially with all the differences between our worlds. We can slow down if you need. Zara smiled softly, appreciating his consideration. It's not just that. When we share these deep emotions, it's intense for me, more than I anticipated. I treasure what we have, but today, I feel the need for a bit of space to understand my feelings. Respecting her honesty, Jack suggested, why don't we take the day to explore separately? We could meet up later and share what we've found, what we've thought about. Would you mind? Zara asked, her tone hopeful. Of course not, Jack reassured her. Sometimes, a little space helps make the heart grow fonder, as they say back home. Grateful, Zara touched his arm lightly. Thank you, Jack. I'll see you in the evening then. This park is the perfect place to think. They parted with a gentle hug, and Jack watched her walk away before he turned to take a different path. As he walked, he mulled over their relationship, considering how fast they had become close and the depth of their connection. It was unlike anything he had experienced, and he wondered about the balance they needed to maintain between their worlds. Meanwhile, Zara found a quiet bench near a water feature, where the sound of trickling water helped soothe her thoughts. She reflected on the emotional intensity of her species compared to humans, who seemed to have a more subdued way of processing feelings. The differences were intriguing but also daunting. Later, as the sun began to set, casting long shadows and a golden glow over the park, Jack returned to the spot where they had agreed to meet. He found Zara already there, looking refreshed and more at ease. Hey, he greeted softly, sitting beside her on the bench. Hey, she returned the greeting, her smile more relaxed. I've missed this. Just sitting quietly with you. I've missed you too, Jack admitted. Did the afternoon help? It did, Zara affirmed. It gave me time to think about how to balance these new experiences with my inner equilibrium. I don't want to lose myself, but I also don't want to hold back from what I'm feeling with you. That's fair, Jack said. We'll take it at a pace that feels right for both of us. No rushing, no pressure. Zara leaned against him slightly. That sounds perfect. And I realized something important, how much I value what we're building together. It's unique, and I cherish it. Jack wrapped an arm around her, pulling her closer. I cherish it too. Let's just keep being honest with each other, okay? About everything. Pace, feelings, doubts. Agreed, Zara nodded, leaning her head on his shoulder. As the light faded and the park lights began to glow, illuminating paths and benches, Jack and Zara sat in comfortable silence, each content in the other's company and secure in the knowledge that their journey together was not just about exploring each other's worlds, but also about understanding and nurturing their own inner selves. After their day of reflective solitude, Jack and Zara felt more grounded and ready to reconnect with a deeper understanding of each other's needs. As evening turned into night, they sat together in Jack's apartment, a place that had become a common ground for their cultural exchanges and personal conversations. Zara, sitting cross-legged on the sofa, looked around at the various gadgets and gizmos Jack had collected from his travels. "You've brought so many pieces of the galaxy to your home," she remarked, her voice warm with admiration. Jack laughed, handing her a steaming mug of cocoa. "And yet, it feels more like home now that I'm sharing it with someone who appreciates it as much as I do." They sipped their drinks in companionable silence for a moment before Jack set his mug down and turned to Zara. "I've been thinking about what you said earlier, about feeling overwhelmed. I realize that I haven't asked you enough about how you process things, being from a culture that's so attuned to emotions." Zara smiled softly, grateful for his consideration. "Thank you, Jack. In my world, we often take time to meditate on our feelings, to really understand them before sharing. It's a bit different from the human approach of discussing feelings more openly and spontaneously." "That makes sense," Jack nodded. "Maybe we can try some of your meditation techniques together? It might help me understand you better." "I would like that," Zara said, her eyes lighting up with the prospect. "And in return, perhaps you can teach me more about human emotional expressions? I find your facial cues and body language fascinating but sometimes confusing." "Deal," Jack grinned. "Why don't we start now? You can teach me the basics of your meditation, and then we can talk about human expressions." Zara agreed, and they spent the next hour meditating. Jack tried to follow Zara's guidance, focusing on his breathing and trying to sense the emotions around him, though he found it challenging without the innate telepathic abilities of Zara's species. After the meditation session, Jack shared insights into human nonverbal cues, explaining the subtleties of smiles, frowns, and furrowed brows. Zara listened intently, asking questions that made Jack think about things he had always taken for granted. As the lesson turned into a deeper discussion about their respective views on emotions and relationships, Zara leaned closer, her hand finding Jack's. "This is nice, understanding each other like this. It's like building a bridge between two worlds." Jack squeezed her hand, his heart full. "It is. And every day that bridge gets stronger." Feeling more connected than ever, they decided to end the evening by watching a film from Earth that Jack claimed was a classic, filled with cues about human behavior and emotions. As they watched, they paused occasionally for Jack to explain a character's motivation or emotional reaction, which Zara found immensely helpful. Halfway through the movie, Zara paused it, turning to Jack with a serious yet gentle expression. "Jack, can I try something?" she asked hesitantly. "Of course, anything," Jack responded, curious. "I want to try expressing affection the human way, with a kiss. I feel it might help me connect your words and actions with what I'm feeling," Zara explained, a blush coloring her cheeks. Jack felt his own heart race, but he nodded, wanting to support her exploration. "Okay," he said softly. Zara leaned in slowly, her eyes searching his for any sign of hesitation. Finding none, she kissed him gently, experimentally, her lips soft against his. The kiss deepened naturally as they both responded to the rush of emotions it stirred. When they finally parted, Zara whispered, "Thank you for helping me understand." Jack, overwhelmed by the sincerity and depth of the moment, simply replied, "Thank you for trusting me." As they resumed the movie, their hands remained intertwined, a silent affirmation of their growing bond and mutual respect for each other's cultures and emotions. The night reaffirmed their commitment to blend their worlds thoughtfully and lovingly, one lesson, one kiss at a time. Jack had been planning a special excursion for Zara, something he hoped would blend the wonders of his exploratory life with the deepening emotional connection they shared. After a short space flight, they landed on a serene planet, its atmosphere aglow with natural lights. "This is Viridia," Jack announced as they stepped off the craft, their boots crunching softly on the bioluminescent ground. "It's famous for its glowing forests. I thought you might like it." Zara's eyes widened in delight, her gaze sweeping over the radiant landscape. "It's beautiful, Jack. It reminds me of home, but it's also completely different." They ventured into the forest, the light from the glowing plants casting an ethereal glow on their path. The air was filled with sweet fragrances, and the gentle rustling of leaves created a soothing backdrop. As they walked, Jack pointed out various plants and their uses, from medicinal herbs to those that were purely decorative. Zara listened, fascinated, occasionally reaching out to touch the glowing foliage, her hands sparking with gentle light upon contact. "This is amazing," she murmured. "Your planet has such biodiversity. At home, everything has a uniformity, a harmony. Here, it feels more wild." Jack chuckled. "Human worlds can be like that, untamed and diverse. It's something I've always cherished about exploring. Every planet has its own rhythm and secrets." They found a clearing, and Jack spread out a blanket he had brought along. As they sat down, he pulled out a small device and played some soft music, a blend of Earth classical and Zara's cultural tunes. "I thought this might make the evening more special," Jack explained, his voice low in the quiet of the forest. Zara leaned against him, her body language relaxed. "You've made this entire trip special, Jack. Thank you for bringing me here." As they sat, watching the natural light show around them, Jack turned to Zara, his expression serious. "Zara, I've been thinking a lot about us, about how different our worlds are and yet how well we connect. It's something I've never felt before." Zara met his gaze, her own eyes reflecting the luminescent light. "I feel the same, Jack. There's a harmony in our differences, a melody that seems to resonate just right." Encouraged, Jack took a deep breath. "I was hoping, maybe, you'd consider traveling with me regularly. There's so much more to see, and I can't imagine exploring it with anyone else but you." Zara's smile was radiant, her decision clear in her shining eyes. "I would love that more than anything, Jack. Exploring the galaxy with you, learning about each other along the way. It sounds like the perfect adventure." They continued to talk late into the night, planning potential destinations and exchanging dreams of what their future journeys might hold. The bioluminescent light around them seemed to pulse in sync with their excitement, the forest alive with the energy of their shared aspirations. At one point, Zara stood and extended her hand to Jack. "Dance with me, here in the light," she said, her voice playful yet tender. Jack took her hand, pulling her close as they swayed to the music, no longer coming from the device, but echoing through the forest itself, as if nature itself was celebrating their decision. The night ended with them lying back on the blanket, staring up at the stars through the glowing canopy, their hands entwined, a silent vow to face whatever the universe had in store for them, together. As they returned to their ship at dawn, the first light of the sun mingling with the fading glow of the forest, they felt a renewed sense of purpose and a deep, comforting assurance that together they could navigate any galaxy, any challenge. The morning was crisp and clear as Jack and Zara stood at the viewing platform overlooking the busy spaceport. Ships of all sizes and designs were docking and departing, each a silent testament to the vastness of the universe and the diversity it held. Today, they were not just spectators. They were participants, about to embark on their own journey across the stars. Jack checked the datapad in his hand, reviewing their itinerary. First stop, the Ringed Nebula of Orion. "I've read it's spectacular this time of year." Zara, standing beside him, suitcase in hand, nodded eagerly. "And then the crystal caves of Narmax? I've always wanted to see them." "Yes, and after that, maybe the floating markets of Zephyria," Jack added, his eyes alight with excitement. Zara laughed, her mood infectious. "It sounds like a dream, Jack. I can't believe we're actually doing this." Jack put an arm around her shoulders, pulling her close. "Believe it, Zara. This is our life now. Exploring the galaxy together, seeing the wonders it has to offer, and learning about each other every step of the way." As they spoke, a man approached them, clad in the uniform of a spaceship captain. "Mr. Jack? Ms. Zara? Your ship is ready for boarding. Shall I escort you to the departure gate?" Jack turned to the captain with a smile. "Yes, thank you. We're ready." They followed the captain through the bustling spaceport, their steps synchronized, a visual representation of their harmony. Reaching the departure gate, they paused, taking a moment to look back at the spaceport that had been the starting point of their relationship. Zara squeezed Jack's hand. "Do you think we'll ever come back here?" she asked, a trace of nostalgia in her voice. Jack squeezed back, reassuring. "We will, someday. But there's so much out there for us to see first." They boarded their ship, a sleek vessel designed for long-distance travel. The interior was cozy, equipped with all the amenities they might need for their adventures. Jack showed Zara to the cockpit, where they could see the stars awaiting them. As the engines hummed to life, Jack took the pilot's seat, his fingers expertly navigating the controls. Zara stood beside him, watching every move with fascination. "Ready to jump to hyperspace?" Jack asked, a grin spreading across his face. "More than ready," Zara replied, her voice filled with anticipation. Jack initiated the jump sequence, and the stars outside stretched into lines of light as they sped forward. The galaxy opened up before them, a canvas of possibilities. As the ship settled into its course, Jack and Zara made their way to the observation deck, where they could watch the cosmos unfold around them. They talked about the places they would visit, the cultures they would explore, and the experiences they would share. "It's like a new chapter of our lives," Zara observed, her hand finding Jack's. "A chapter where every day brings a new horizon," Jack agreed, his gaze fixed on the star-studded void ahead. "Together, there's nothing we can't explore." The ship sped on, a speck of light and life against the vast backdrop of space, its passengers bound by love and curiosity. As they ventured into the unknown, Jack and Zara knew they had everything they needed, each other and an unquenchable thirst for discovery. Their laughter and voices faded into the hum of the ship, but their spirits soared high, carried by dreams and the infinite promise of the stars.